Welcome to Right on Track, a songwriting podcast. Thanks to Tone for tuning in. I'm Demi Michelle Schwartz, and I'm thrilled you're joining me on my songwriting journey. So kick back and relax, don't fall flat, and remember, stay right on track. Hello everyone, welcome back to Right on Track. I am so excited because joining me today is one of my best friends. Please welcome Jess Minneci. Hey girl.
Hey girl, how's it going?
Great, how's it going for you?
Pretty good. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I'm so excited you're here because we're going to be talking all about listening to music and all that goes into loving music as a listener. But before we get into this, can you share with everyone a little about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So Demi and I actually met when we were in undergrad together. And now I'm finishing the grad program that Demi was in. So I'm studying writing popular fiction. I'm getting my master's degree and I'm writing my novel. And I also work in the communications field and I'm also visually impaired. So music is one of my favorite things because I love to listen to things. Like my ears are my eyes.
Awesome. Well, I'm so excited you're here. To kick things off, can you read a great quote by Robert Fripp?
Sure. Music is the wine that fills the cup of silence.
I love this. Why did you pick this one?
I picked this quote because it really spoke to me. Um, like I said, I'm visually impaired and I don't like quiet. Like, I like quiet when I'm concentrating or trying to write something, but when I'm just hanging out by myself, I need sound around me. And music fills that silence, but the fact that he mentions wine shows that music is beautiful. And music can be beautiful, especially with a great voice and a great melody and some great instruments. Music is wine, and it's so beautiful. And as a listener, I love the stories that go into songs, but I also love the beauty of just listening to a song.
I love that so much. I really like this quote as well because it's talking about filling the silence. And honestly, music is the beautiful thing that takes silence and makes it beautiful. Because I think, too, like when you're listening to music, there are pauses, there are moments of silence in songs. And I think that can be very impactful. And that paired with a beautiful melody and lyrics and instrumentation and all the things that make a song paired with those moments that pretty much allow you to take it in and reflect and kind of be in that moment. It kind of paints this beautiful picture, and I love it. So let's just talk a little about why we love music so much. So, just on a personal level, why is music so special to you?
Music is special to me because there are a lot of songs that you can relate to as a human being, and sometimes music talks about complex concepts that it's hard to speak about normally, but when you sing a song, it adds a layer of meaning to it that you couldn't otherwise add if you just talked about something.
I completely agree. I think that music as an art form can evoke emotion, and I think that's the most special thing about music. If you would just print out the lyrics to a song and read them aloud to somebody or just out loud to yourself, maybe you'll feel something from that. But I think nothing compares to experiencing a songwriter's or an artist's story through listening and being in that moment with them. Because I think the coolest thing is, like, as a songwriter, I'm writing songs from certain moments and situations in my life, but even though I'm not in that moment anymore, it's captured in a song. And so when I listen to it, when others listen to it, and even when I listen to other songs, it's kind of like a moment in time that's frozen in however long the song is, and that can be experienced forever, basically. And so I think that's awesome.
I agree, and I feel um, like you're saying, it's a moment frozen in time, but it also evokes memories. So even if you're listening to a song and it's not like I'm not singing, it's not my words, but I'm listening to someone else's, I can see their situation and I can relate it to mine. So, one of my best friends, Allie, she'll just send me songs. And she'll be like, "This reminds me of my past relationship." I'm just like I'm just like, "Yeah, it does, girl. Like, it totally does." And I'm like and then I like guess which guy she's talking about. Because she's had like maybe 3 steady boyfriends, and I'm like, "Okay, so out of the 3, this is who you're talking about." Um, and so like it definitely evokes emotion, but it's just kind of like when you're sad or angry or happy, you turn on music. Like, that's my automatic response. Like, if I'm happy and I'm going down the road, like, and I'm driving, maybe doing a road trip. Well, I'm not driving, obviously, but someone else is driving and we're going on a road trip. It's like, we need a happy song to go with this. We need a happy song about summer. We need a Christmas song to make us feel warm and fuzzy around the holidays. So it's just like an automatic reflex of mine. It's like, okay, I'm feeling something. I'm gonna turn on a song because I know that someone else has felt that way. And it just makes you feel more connected as a human. You're like, okay, someone else has gone through this crap. Someone else has experienced this emotion. And so you kind of pick the artist that relates most to you and you just religiously follow them.
Wow, okay, you talked about so many things I want to dive deeper into. So, the first thing is the memories. And I love this so much because at Seton Hill, when I was in the music therapy program, we had a whole class on music and psychology. And one of the exercises we did is our professor played a song and she had us write down either a specific memory that came to mind or an image. And it was so interesting because like everybody in the class came up with something different. And that's just so cool how like I think like songs, because they have so much meaning to them, they have the ability to be associated with moments in our lives. And so there's so many songs that I think of and like listen to, especially throwbacks. Like when I listen to a song I loved in like high school, like I get taken back to a very specific moment. And I think that's really cool because it's different for everybody. And that kind of extends into the other thing you were talking about with, relating to an artist and feeling something. These songs are individual songs and stand on their own from the artist's point of view. But once it's out into the world, every person has their own personal connection or emotions or situations tied to that song. And so it has the ability to make them feel different things. So, for example, like you might turn to a song to make you feel happy or get you in a good mood, but that song could bring sad emotions for somebody if that song was connected to somebody in their life that they don't speak to anymore. So it's so cool how songs can have different associations for everybody.
Yeah, and you're just bringing up all these songs that I think of with associated with memories. So, the song "Shut Up and Dance with Me," that was what I danced to at my prom. We also danced to "Thinking Out Loud" by Ed Sheeran. "Miss Me More" reminds me of my ex-boyfriend, 'cause Kelsey Ballerini is talking about, like, what does she miss more, the guy or the stuff that he was controlling and prevented her from doing, like turning on her records and wearing her high heels, like and it just reminds me of, okay, yeah, my ex-boyfriend was kinda controlling too. And so that's, like, a big memory. Trying to think okay, so I'm gonna butcher the name of this song. It's on Taylor's Tidal album because Taylor Swift, all of her songs have memories, right? But on Taylor's Tidal album, she talks about I think it's called A Place in This World, and she talks about, being alone on her own, trying to find a place in this world. And I just have a very vivid memory of, like, riding the bus to school, and I had my iPod Shuffle. Like, that's how old we are, guys. An iPod Shuffle, and, like, I was just thinking about it, I'm like, "Yeah, I am kind of alone." Like, like, I was kind of a loner back then. I was like, "I am kind of alone, and I am trying to figure things out." And I was like, "Thank you for like, being there with me," you know? And, like, "Fearless" is one of my favorite songs of hers too, and, I remember listening to it at, like, my first Taylor Swift concert was her Fearless tour, and we were in Chicago, and, Taylor Lautner was actually there because he was dating her at the time, and, she, like, came out during Love Story, and I think she hugged him, and the crowd was, like, going crazy, and so, like, I have, like, all of these memories of, like, Taylor Swift songs, and they're just my favorite, honestly. Um, And, my other favorite older one is Change, where she's talking about, like, being the change and stuff like that, and at every point in my life, you can relate to that song. It's like, okay, maybe you're changing your major, but you're doing this for the better. Like, you're helping yourself and you're helping the little man in some way with something that you're doing, whether you're helping them, whether you are, like, writing a book that relates to them, and so, like, all of her songs have something attached to me. And so it's just like we were talking about favorite artists. Like that definitely is one. And similar to Change is Legends by Kelsey Ballerini.
So
So you can
good.
see a pattern. You can see my pattern. I love female artists. That's my pattern.
No, for sure. I definitely connect to female artists more as well, and I loved all of your songs that bring back memories. I have so many as well, and I really like how you mentioned like seeing Taylor in concert because I feel like I've been to so many concerts where as soon as I hear a song that I went to that artist concert, I remember like that moment of being in the arena or the stadium listening. Concerts are my favorite. And I think that's another side of being a listener that we can talk more about is like we listen to these songs, we listen to the studio recordings on repeat, our favorite artists like Taylor and Kelsey. But when you actually get to see one of your favorite artists in concert and hear those songs live, I can't tell you how many times I've cried. Like, or just like start screaming the lyrics at the top of my lungs and dancing around and having the best time with thousands of other people who love the music and are there for that reason. It's just the best feeling. I've been to so many. I would have to say some of my favorite concerts, definitely Taylor's Reputation tour. I would have to say Sean's self-titled tour in 2019. And I also loved the Maroon 5 tour, Red Pill Blues tour, because Julia Michaels opened, and that's when I met her. And I didn't notice how many bops Maroon 5 had until I went. Like, I mainly went for Julia, but I loved Maroon 5 ever since, like, middle school. And when they played every single one of their hits, I was like, oh my god, this is one of the best concerts ever.
Yeah, it's also funny how like songs remind you of memories, but they also remind you of just a person in general. So like my brother is a huge Maroon 5 fan. Like he loves Adam Levine. And, like, he used to listen to, uh oh my god, what's that song? Oh my god, I'm gonna butcher it.
Please don't say Payphone. That's the one that was so
No, no,
overplayed.
no, 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 the one where he's talking about, like, he's, like, in the
Oh,
rain.
oh, oh, shoot. Oh, wait. She Will Be Loved? I
Yes,
love
thank
that
you.
song. I love that song.
He played that song so many times in the shower. Like, my brother I associate with Fall Out Boy, Green Day, Maroon 5, and Eminem. Like, he, because when we were in high school, like, he had his own bathroom in our house because, he sprayed too much Axe cologne. My sister and I were not gonna share with him. Like, and so he'd always be in the shower listening to stuff, and, like, my dad would, like, make him turn off his Eminem, so he'd just turn on Maroon 5 instead. And, because my dad hates rap, and, like, I just love Maroon 5, and I just have, like, that memory too of him just, like, singing along, and that song, like, the one that you just said, I can't remember the name
She
now.
Will Be Loved.
Oh, She Will Be Loved. My brain today. Yeah, She Will Be Loved. It's so funny too, like, how you can't remember the title of the song. That's the other thing about songs. You can't remember the title of the song, but you know so many people who've listened to it that they're just like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, I know that song, I know that song." And then they just, like, come up with so that's also how music just, like, brings people together, and it's so universal, and, like, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a pop star, like, I wanted to be Hannah Montana. And I was like, "I wanna be like Hannah Montana, live a double life," because I, like, wanted that feeling of singing on stage and, like, hearing the crowd sing the words back to you, um, and it's just so beautiful. So basically, songs remind you of memories, they remind you of people, they remind you of situations. Um, they just remind like some songs too, like switching gears, a lot of songs have lessons in them, and that's why I'm a huge country music fan. Like, in case you guys couldn't tell, I'm a huge pop person and I love country music. Um, and like a lot of songs have really good lessons in them, I think. And I think that's why, like, I love country music. Um, and okay, this is so I told you I'm scattered today, but I was just thinking about I love Maren Morris, and I was thinking about she in one of her songs, she goes, "What's your time machine?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Springsteen or
yeah.
Teenage Dream?"
Uh-huh.
And so, like, that's your time machine.
Yeah.
That's what your, my time machine is Teenage Dream. Like, I remember having that album on my
Yeah.
boombox. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
um, so
Yeah.
yeah, but it's music is like the memories and then situations and people and
All
what
the
was the last thing I
things.
said? Yeah, all of the things and just like I love Maren Morris. And it's also cool too because not only do you go to concerts and you have that like great feeling when artists like sing your song, but you also feel so connected to them now with social media. Like that's why I love how artists have social media because you're like, "Oh my god, like someone had a baby." Like, you know, someone got married and you're so connected to them like I religiously follow Thomas Rhett. Like, I love Thomas Rhett. Um, and, like, but lesson yeah, I was going back to my whole lessons thing and stories. So there's a Thomas Rhett song where he talks about, like, his life and how him and his wife met, and then they, couldn't have a baby, so they're about to adopt, and as soon as they were about to adopt, she got pregnant, and so now they have 2 girls. Like, there's that song. So there's the story, and there's the lessons, like, Kenny Chesney's song "There Goes My Life." I grew up on 90s country, so to me is like a country transplant, like she just started, and so I'm sending her 90s country song and she's just like, "No." But the Kenny Chesney song talks about how he wanted to like go to the coast, go to the West Coast, but then he got married and his wife got pregnant, and so he had to change his path. And he's like, "There goes my life. Like it's all gone. Like this is gonna suck." Then he has this girl, and she's his whole world. And then he goes. She at the end is going to college, and she's headed off to the West Coast, and so it says like there goes my life. Like she's my life now, and now she's gone, and she's fulfilling the dream that I had. And so you learn from that, like adult situations happen, but you learn a good lesson. Maybe something's not meant to be, and that's how it goes. So yeah, I'm sorry I'm scattered today, but as a listener, that's kind of how your brain is when you listen to a song because you love it so much. And
Yeah.
then you're like, oh my God, this reminds me of this, or this reminds me of that. Um, and so it's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Stop me if I'm rambling.
No, you're perfect. Yeah. No, I think like I love how you brought up the lessons and the storytelling because I think that's what I'm trying to do so much in my new music, as you know. I think like the songs that have the most wide universal impact are the ones that speak about such real things. And like there's so many love songs, there's so many heartbreak songs, there's so many like super fun summer songs, like all of those are out there, but I think the cool thing is like either as like a songwriter or just listeners finding music that are about things that people either don't talk about a lot in songs or aren't really as open to talking about. Because that's what I think is like, there's certain topics that I don't feel comfortable just talking about, like straight up talking. But there are so many songs that tackle difficult things and hard realities and important things that people should know, even if they don't want to hear them. And I think songs are a great way to do that because we have the musical aspect and the song art format kind of masking it a little bit. But when you actually sit down and listen to a song and read the lyrics and take in what it's saying, it can really send a message and make change. And I think that's the beautiful thing about music. It has the ability to change people and change people's perspectives. Not only bring people together, like you were talking about before, but like actually change someone's mindset on something and maybe make them think about something and put themselves in someone else's shoes. So I think that's really important, and that's something I'm always trying to do as a songwriter. And I've definitely noticed that my favorite songs are definitely leaning more country now. I still have some favorite pop songs, but all of them talk about something that I can personally relate to and have a message that I think is important. And so I think that's really important.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why a couple months ago I sent you a Brad Paisley song called "This Is Country Music," because he literally talks about in that song like we talk about the hard things, the universal things. Like we talk about cancer. He said cancer is not a dirty word. Like we talk about cancer. We talk about um the hardships in life. And uh there's one country song that talks about a wife is making a barbecue for her husband who's coming home from the military, and the song literally starts where this gentleman comes to her door and says, he's no longer with us. And so the song is not a sad song. It's almost like a celebration of the gentleman's life. So they talk about how they're all in a small town, and this guy has who owns the bar gives everybody free drinks that day, and they just celebrate the person's life. Um, Now I'm sorry, I can't remember if it was her son or her husband, but um, preparing for that person to come home. And so they deal with hard topics, and they convey emotions that you, like we were saying, that you could not say. So Ingrid Andress just released a new song called Blue, and
So
she's
good.
talking about I was listening to it on repeat yesterday, and she was talking about the blue of this guy's eyes, and like she didn't know what blue was until she saw them. And so you really dig deep into people's psyches, and um some songs are just so like powerful, and sometimes when people just focus on the beat they don't realize what that song is saying. So there's that aspect to it, but there's also, like you said, the universality, we'll just call that a word,
I know, that's what I say. I don't
about
even know if it's a word.
about about the songs. And so what I love about Demi's songs, I'm gonna do like a little self promo for you, is that like you do deal with the hard topics. So y'all go listen to Afterthought. It's out now. But we're by the time we're recording this episode, Afterthought came out for us yesterday. Um and she's talking about like, you don't have time for me, I don't have time for you. Like, if you're gonna treat me like crap, I'm just gonna just leave you high and dry. And it's so true, because we don't have time to deal with people that are rude to you. We don't have time for that. And the song is pop, all right? But it reminds me of country, because country music talks about that. They're like, "Okay, you suck. We're moving on." like Miranda Lambert's song Mama's Broken Heart, where she's like, I cut my bangs with some rusty kitchen scissors. I screamed his name till the neighbors called the cops. And like the mom basically comes up and she's like, "Listen, you can't act like a child. Like he's done with you. Move on." Like like I don't want to deal with this. Like put yourself back together. And so that's all universal in the life lessons that you have there. And I'm excited for some of Demi's new stuff, because she does talk about universal things that aren't always mentioned a lot. And I think that that's super important, to add another layer to music, and to just listening to the song, not like hanging out in the shower, like sort of hearing the lyrics, like actually sitting down to like listen to a song. It also helps you meditate a little bit and like calms you down. Like so many friends who are depressed are just like, they're like, "What are your coping mechanisms?" And my friends are just like, "Music, music, music."
Yeah. No, I really like how you brought that up too. I think like every time I'm going through rough stuff, like I always listen to music, or I'll just pick up my guitar and like pluck away at it or play on my piano. I think like music is such a great thing to turn to. Like there's so many terrible avenues that you can go down when you're feeling anxious or depressed or something. But I think music is such a healthy way of dealing with things, because you can find songs that are about things that you're going through. It's almost like that artist is speaking something that you're not able to fully comprehend or say yourself. They're the voice for you, and they're the ones making you feel like you're not alone. And so there are definitely those songs as well. As a listener, it's not always the, oh, fun, let's go to a concert, let's blast this, let's do all those things. Sometimes it's just about having those personal moments. And that's where like beautiful things come from. It's like that song was almost like a shoulder to cry on, or your best friend during a hard time. And like for the years to come, that song will always hold a special place in your heart because it was there for you.
Yeah. That's why people were ranting and raving about the 10-minute All Too Well version because they could relate to it. Like, I think Taylor Swift was I think she was on The Tonight Show. I watched an interview where, they asked her, like, what's her favorite new song coming out on like, revised, let's call it, revised Red album, and she's like, "Well, the 10-minute All Too Well because it related to me, and I didn't think anyone would wanna listen to a song that's 10 minutes." But if you think about songs that were, like, made in the 80s, like Bohemian Rhapsody is a really, really long song. So it's just like, if you're feeling that and you deeply feel something, like it doesn't matter the length of the song. That's also true too. Cause like Demi will sometimes send me like her music. So I'm like a giddy child in a candy store. I'm like, oh my God, what did you make for me? Um, and she's like, well, what did you think? And I'm like, well, maybe this song is too long, or maybe this is, and I'm like, but then I text her, I'm like, this is not long enough. I want more of this. So it's just kind of funny how, like, as a listener too, if you love something so much, you don't care how long the song is. And I realized that recently, and I was just like, oh my God, like this could go on forever and I'd be fine. Um, there was a contestant on America's Got Talent, and she had cancer and she recently passed away. Her name was Nightbird. Well, her real name was Jane, but her performance name was Nightbird. And she, for her America's Got Talent auditions, she did an original song called "It's Okay," and it was talking about like the 1 year of her life where she was really struggling, and it's like, yeah, she has cancer, yeah, she has this, but she's okay. She'll be okay, and it's about really picking yourself up. And so a lot of people really related to her, and it's just who speaks to you. Um, and Thomas Rhett song, like, what's your country song? Like, what's your favorite? What speaks to you? Um, so yeah, it's just a whole beautiful thing. I love music.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's so important how you brought up like what speaks to you personally because every artist has a fan base, no matter what genre, no matter what they write about. And I think music and art in general, as well with the books thing, like it's so subjective. Some people will like it, some people won't. And I think as a listener, like we all have our different preferences. You and I like pop and country. Somebody else may like rap or rock or whatever. But I think like based on our own personalities and our interests and our backgrounds, we all gravitate to things that speak to us. And so I think it's really cool as a listener to really notice what you like because I think it can show so much about you. Like the songs that you relate to and the messages that you can see yourself in when you really take a step back and like reflect on the music that you're listening to and why. I've learned so much about myself just from doing that. And I think that's awesome because then when you meet other people who like the same kind of music or have the same favorite song, that's something you have in common from the music standpoint. But if that song spoke to both of you, then it's special for a reason. And I think that's really cool.
Ooh, that's really interesting. I did not think about that. I was just telling Demi before we went on that like I have a lot of songs that are on my like playlist on Spotify, and it keeps circling back to 90s stuff, which I love to listen to, but I don't like to listen to that all the time. So I'm creating a 2022 favorites playlist, and I'm just sitting here after she said this going, what does this say about, so now I gotta go listen to my favorites playlist and think about this. Like, it's kind of funny. So like, okay, so for example, like I love Connor Smith. Listen to his Take It Slow song, You Will Not Regret It. I had it on repeat for like a month. And like and I was like, okay, so what does this say about me? It says that like I like relationships that take it slow, that aren't like the fast paced ones where it's like, oh, let's hang out and let's watch the sunset. Like, let's take it slow. Or like the song Where Did All the Cowboys Go? That's also on my favorites playlist. If you haven't heard of Abby Anderson, she's awesome. And she's just talking about like, where did all the gentlemen go? Like, where's the guy who will just come to your door and like pick you up? Like, why are people today such jerks where they just like come to your, like, it reminds me of people coming to your door and just like honking instead of like going to your door. So she's like where did all the cowboys go? Like where did all the gentlemen like go? And it's like it's so true. It's like, okay, that shows you what you want in a relationship. And then it shows you like what your instrument preferences are. Like, I listen a lot to songs that are just stripped guitar because I like to hear the artist's voice because I feel like I can relate to them more if I hear their voice instead of like all this background stuff. And so it's like, okay, you relate to a person's raw, vulnerable energy, and it shows that you are a vulnerable person too. So, like, these are all the things that are going through my brain, like,
Yeah.
from what you just said, and it's so true.
Yeah, for sure. Completely. Yeah, guys, Jess is always telling me, keep it a piano ballad, keep it with just Luke's guitar, don't add anything else.
Well, okay, I mean, listen, like, Find Love is a gem. Like, it's guitar, like, it's pretty, like, I don't know, like, I'm kind of like, I'm not a fan of, like, a lot of pop today. Like, there are certain pop artists that I like today, but there are, like, a lot of them that I don't, and it's just because, like, their songs might not have good messages, or it just might be straight up instrumentation and clicks, and I'm just like, but where's the music? Like,
Yeah.
music to me is a melody with beautiful lyrics and a beautiful opening. I can't tell you how many times I've gone through my release radar, listened to like the first 10 seconds of a song and skipped because I didn't like the way the instrumentation started.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think it's all about the lyrics and what the songs are saying. I think this is a great point to wrap down on. I think me personally, though I am rooted in pop and bringing some country in, my main thing is storytelling and what the lyrics are saying. If a song's more produced, that's fine, but it's all about the messages. And I do agree that there's some songs that aren't as deep with the messages and focus a lot on the instrumentation and the production, but I always write my songs melody and lyrics before I even touch a guitar or touch my piano. And so I think the focus is on, as a listener, the songs that speak to you, and what speaks to you is the lyrics, not, a full blown production, unless that's your kind of thing. But for you and I, we really love songs that we can relate to, messages that are important and meaningful to us. And so yeah, it was awesome having you on. Are there any final things that you want to share about being a listener of music before we wrap up?
I think if any artists are listening, I would just like to say thank you for making music. You too to me. Like, thank you for making music, putting your thoughts into the world and adding to this generation of listeners, because you truly relate to us and we relate to you. And it's just, I couldn't live my life without music. And so the fact that, it's still popular so many years later. Like, if you think of the one thing in the world that hasn't changed, it's the fact that people still love music. Like, music may look different to us now, like it was on records before, then CDs and tapes and stuff, and now it's digital, but like, people are always listening. People still love music, and it's just like the one thing that's the one industry, like, you'll still make money on it. Like, even if your song is similar to someone else's song, people might like your version better. Um, and yeah. So also, if Kelsey Ballerini ever listens to this song, I mean, this podcast, podcast, like, listen to Demi's Homecoming Queen version, because I don't know, like, I really like it. She added a bridge, and yeah, just artists, thank you. We really relate to you more if you write your own music. I feel like that's why I love Taylor Swift so much, because she writes her own music. And just like, thank you for like being you and for just putting yourself into the world, because that's super important and listeners appreciate you.
Awesome, that was beautiful. Thank you so much, Jess. It was lovely having you on. So, this is the part where I have songwriters and artists and industry people plug their music and social media, but is there anything you'd like to share?
Um, I mean, I post about books on social media. my my social media is quite literally like, like, maybe what I'm reading, or maybe like a family event that I've gone to, and I'm gonna be working on like talking more about books on Instagram and TikTok. So if you guys like books, you
Yeah.
can follow me on Instagram at Jessica_Minneci, Minneci, and then just at Jessica Minneci on TikTok. I'm like, as an aspiring author, I'm gonna start and try to add more bookish content, like book reviews and videos and stuff. So if you like books, follow me. If you don't like books, don't follow me. Because I am like, it's like a spam post. It's like, did you read this? But yeah, if you like books, definitely check me out and check out Demi on Spotify. And yeah, that's my plug.
Well, girl, it's awesome having you on for such a great conversation. Listeners, I hope you enjoyed this episode with Jess Minneci. And of course, until next time, stay right on track.